Good morning. Today I'm making a quick video on the Virginia bar exam. I recently passed the exam and I've had many people ask, what's the difference between the people who pass and the people who do not? And I'm going to divide this discussion into three main topics. First, a brief overview of the psychology of the exam and some of the logistics. Secondly, a discussion of the content and common errors that my friends and I found were not necessarily fully covered by bar prep programs. And then third, just the logistics of the bar exam and life management during the bar exam. So first, the psychology of the bar exam. You've gone through 3 years of law school. Hopefully you have a job lined up for after the exam. And usually you're somewhat intellectually tired, I guess you would say. You've been working hard for 3 years. You've done a summer associate job or two during your 3 years. And of course, over winter vacation in law school, you had more work than during the semester. So it's natural for people to receive a diploma in May and come to the conclusion that, hey, it's time to have some fun. And in some ways it is. It makes sense to take about a week off, maybe 2 weeks off, between graduation and the start of your bar prep course. Now, with bar prep, there's Barbary and there's Themis. And in Virginia, there's one or two others, but I definitely stand by Barbary as a trustworthy company. They're expensive, but it's worth it. It's a lot more expensive to not pass the first time than it is to have to retake the exam. And Barbary has wonderful technology. They have cognitive studies about their technology. And basically, if you do about 85 to 90% of the Barbary prep tasks and lectures and courses, you'll be fine. I don't think the bar exam is necessarily something to worry about, but it's something to worry about if you don't properly manage your life. So psychologically, you're ready to take a break, and you're also probably ready to take your hands off the wheel, at least a little bit, because you're proud of yourself. You've graduated law school. But this is the time to really crack down and reflect on what you're not good at before the bar exam. Are you good at doing your laundry? Hopefully. But are you good at contract law? Maybe you did all right during law school, but you got a little bit lucky on the exam. You can't really get lucky on the bar. You pretty much need to know what you know. You can't have any areas of law where you are terrible. You can have areas of law where you're not that good. But the heart of the bar exam, at least psychologically, is that first essay, those first couple essays. Because the adrenaline's pumping and you're either in Roanoke in the summer or Norfolk in the winter. There's 500, if not 1,000 people around you, and everybody's herding cats, trying to get their pencils ready. They're looking over your license, your ID. It's always somewhat funny to me because there's no way anybody would just sort of sneak in there and take the bar for fun. If you're there, you're probably there for a reason, and you're probably the same person. I think that there's no greater moment of pressure than that first moment. You'll get through it. And I advise people generally to just sit still for the first moment or two. Not 10 minutes, not 5 minutes, because that's about the time you have to get the first essay underway. But just sit still and read over the whole pamphlet, because you might not know the key words in that first essay, and that can be very psychologically hard. But when you look over the whole packet of essays on that first day, you'll realize that you have the gist of this information on most of the essays. I think that you always want to stick to the standard IRAC method, because that helps you psychologically stay in tune to who you are, which is a talented young law student, soon to be attorney. So stick with the methods you learned in law school. Issue spotting, putting out the rule, analyzing the facts to the rule, and of course having a clear conclusion. Some people say conclusions aren't important on the bar exam. I think they're even more important because the people who read these exams are often young associates and they're busy and they're under a lot of pressure. I know that they say they give them to the bigger firms in Richmond and Northern Virginia and Norfolk to read over, to have the partners read over them. A lot of that work is delegated down, at least from my experience. So conclusions are important. Psychologically, you're going to be a little bit frazzled from studying over the prior couple of weeks. So it's important to get a good night's rest. I do not necessarily advise you to stay in Hotel Roanoke. And here's why. Everybody in that hotel will be incredibly stressed out. And it's also a drive away. So if you're going to stay there, make sure you have enough time to drive from Hotel Roanoke to the bar. Each year, someone gets in a minor fender bender in between the hotel and the Roanoke Civic Center. Don't be that person. I advise people to stay within walking distance of the Civic Center. God forbid the car breaks down, you didn't change the oil, something happens, and you can just walk. It's also nice to get physically outside and have a way to take a break in between sessions, just walk back to the nearby hotel, because there's so many hotels that are closer than Hotel Roanoke. I know Hotel Roanoke is where all the law professors stay, but it's a big risk staying that far away from the bar exam. I'm probably going against tradition when I say that. I would also say that you don't really want to room with your best friends. Everybody says, oh, it's kind of spring break. We're going to stay together, get a big string of hotel rooms right next to each other. You kind of want to isolate yourself. You want to be supported, so maybe stay with nearby 1 or 2 people. But what happens if 5 people in your group of 10 have a really bad first day? You're going to start double guessing yourself. So the other psychological part of the bar exam is, after the first day, how do you manage your time? Because you don't really have time to study. You only have time to be proud of yourself with a good first day, because you always do a little bit better than you feel you did. And more or less stay focused on the second day, which is the multiple choice day. And it's different because you have to read a little bit more quickly. There's more to read, and it's, of course, critical to cross out those answers that will never be right, those answers that don't make legal sense internally within the answer. And doing a little bit of quick review, I guess, is fine in between that first and second day, but I wouldn't advise anything major. I'd advise reading a book that doesn't relate to the law. Why do I say that? I say read a book that doesn't relate to the law because there's a whole world out there. And when we first went to law school, the reason we went was to grow and thrive as people and to help that world. And it's nice to have a little reminder of that during the bar exam of why you're putting yourself through this, because it gets a little bit stressful. I would have a refrigerator in your room that's independent from the hotel refrigerator. I'd have coffee in your room that's with a coffee machine that you yourself bring. Whatever routine you have to get yourself psychologically in the zone, make sure that no electrical malfunction or logistical error is going to get in the way of your success. It's important that you feel confident, because if you're confident, your knowledge will show. In life, you have to plan the vision for your future, and then you have to envision what that plan is going to look like. Then you have to divide a plan into small tasks. And basically, during that first night, you're going to be flooded with a lot of big picture items and small picture items. And you just need to turn your brain off. You can't be thinking long term about your life or short term or anything like that. You want to have a routine with your food, your pencils, all of the logistics of making sure your room is safe and secure. But you don't really want to do any deep thinking. that's going to be very hard to do. So again, I say read a book that doesn't relate to the law. This isn't time to read John Grisham's A Time to Kill or his recent hit Sycamore Row. It also isn't time to do something extreme like learn how to do math. I think that in general, people don't understand the pressure of the bar exam because they think it's putting 3 years of information into 2 days. That's not true. It's not 3 years into 2 days. It's really elements of 3 years into 2 days, and you can't predict the elements. There's a fine difference there. So the second segment of the video is about the content. I want to talk a little bit about the content. There's a lot of courses that in law school people avoid because they want a higher GPA, it doesn't relate to their practice area, the courses are boring. Well, those courses are key on the Virginia bar exam. Virginia civil procedure, if you're a transactional attorney such as myself, you probably breezed through Virginia civil procedure. You may not have taken creditors' rights or bankruptcy because maybe you said to yourself, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'll never be bankrupt, and I'm not going to have bankrupt clients because I'm going to focus on other things. Well, creditors' rights, the Uniform Commercial Code, the Virginia Civil Procedure, dynamics, the history of it, everything, and especially wills, trusts, and estates are key on the bar exam. And a lot of people, for one reason or another, don't take those courses in law school. If you're a 1L or a 2L listening to this video, think seriously hard about not specializing yourself away from key bar exam concepts. Now, that doesn't mean law school should be focused on preparing you for the bar exam. It's a licensing exam. You just need to pass. The people who make partner in major firms might have passed by 1 point. The people who pass by 100 points, you'll never know. So you only need to pass. Now, you do need to pass. So it's a serious endeavor. And the content of the law schools these days doesn't always match up to the content of the bar exam. And people will say things like, oh, well, I'll study that during Barbary. Here's the problem with that. The problem with that is you will not be able to learn French in 2 months. You just won't. If I said learn a different language, and each subject of the law, creditors' rights, wills, trusts, and estates, it's kind of like a language. You probably won't be able to learn a language that quickly. So, 8 months before Barbary, maybe you decide you're not going to take a course. Maybe you decide you will take a course that's bar related, but start studying the language. You can do that through Cali exercises and reading horn books and treatises on the topic. Even if you can't fit something into your curriculum, it doesn't mean you don't need to study it at all. I remember I briefly took a Uniform Commercial Code course as a 2L, and then I refreshed that information my fall 3L year so that by the time Barbary came along, I really had it down pat. Now, it's important with content to realize that it's very, very hard to get a perfect score on any essay. But if you can do it, you want to. So if you have a strong suit, hopefully you do by the time you're a 3L. If you have a strong suit, if you are really, really good